Bear with me a moment, getting everything connected. Streaming all over the place now. All right, how y'all doing? All right, we're up on TikTok. Let's see if we're. There we go. Wow, we got some serious lag going on here. So bear with me. I'm just waiting to catch things up here. Um, if you can hear me and see me, okay, give me a thumbs up somewhere, just so I know. Because it looks like we're having a few problems here. Could be my internet's balking a little bit. All right. Hey, Ben, thank you. All right. So, welcome back to another live. I'm Dan, and I'm excited to announce I've added another stream. So, this will be going out to Elon's world as well. We're giving that a test. So, one of the things I'm looking to do is really expand this show, get it out to all my different social medias. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dan, otherwise known as Men Need to Be Heard. I speak about men's and boys' issues, um, wide range of subjects that I cover. And today I really want to get into one that, well, let me just step back. One of the things I've been doing lately, a lot of, is what I call a daily post. Now, for those of you on TikTok, it's been over on my second account, which is Men Need to Be Heard Too, TOO. For those of you on Insta and Twitter, and also what am I? Oh, YouTube. um, I've been posting them daily also. So one of the things I've been doing is asking questions of different types to kind of spur discussion because one of the goals that I'm really looking to do is drive discussion, raise awareness. And a topic that I posted the other day, um, and it's really what I wanted to kind of talk about today. I had a few topics I wanted to talk about, and I was trying to settle on one. And I had one thought yesterday, and then another the day before that, because I had a lot of these. Well, thank you on the T-shirt, Fallen Angels. You can get this T-shirt. Go to my bio, go to the merch store, and you can buy the shirt. And portion of the proceeds get donated to a men's domestic violence shelter. Um, Shameless plug I just threw in there. But the question that I threw out there was this was, I believe, yesterday. Do you think the media's portrayal of men and fathers influences societal perceptions of them? And what changes would you like to see? And I have to say that that one drove a lot of interest on Insta and on Twitter. I will tell you, TikTok has been throttling those posts like crazy. Big shock, right? Um, but I thought it would be good to kind of have a discussion with you guys about it because, in my opinion, as I talked about in the post in the video, I think, and I've talked about it in other videos, I think this is the biggest issue that men and boys face in today's society because it percolates down to all the other ones, right? So what I'm talking about, and just I have it here on my phone because I wanted to make sure that I commented on this answer that somebody put up. So Ace of Hearts, this was 4 or 5 days ago, said in relation to what I asked on the question: Homer Simpson, Family Guy, Married with Children, Archie Bunker, men and fathers are portrayed as fumbling buffoons, and we wonder why we're dismissed in our lives. I couldn't agree more with that statement. That's why I wanted to kind of throw it out for discussion today with you guys, right? Is to see what you think about it, and try and generate a little discussion because until we address this, the other issues, yeah, we can address them and we need to, right? There's a ton of them. But until we address this, sorry, I can't get comfortable. Until we address this issue, I don't think we're going to have much of an effect on the other ones. We can change some things. But as I've thrown out before, a classic one is, as Ace of Hearts said, you look at, say, Homer Simpson. He's portrayed as a bumbling idiot, right? A dad who can't take care of himself. And there's, as somebody else said, I got them highlighted here because I thought these were such great comments. Davy Boya said, like others have said, commercials always portray women as virtuous, intelligent, strong, and better than men, whereas men are portrayed as weak, oftentimes following the women's lead, or they're a punchline of a joke. In TV shows, movies, and now video games, it's even worse. Good point. When you see that every single day, and I'm 60 years old, I've seen this for 6 decades now, right? It does percolate in. And, when you go to family court, for example, if you think that this doesn't affect how judges see fathers, I got news for you. I got a bridge to sell you, because I'll tell you right now, it absolutely does. That whole mentality that dads are incapable of taking care of children, when you actually look at it, they're every bit as capable as moms are. Some argue more so. I'm not going there right now. I'll let you guys do that in the comments, but you get my drift with it, right? Think about it from the perspective of, here's a judge sitting up on the bench, right? They got a mom on this side, they got a dad on this side. Mom saying dad sucks, dad saying mom sucks, because that's basically the way it goes, right? It's that adversarial, which needs to get out of family court. And I defend judges, and people get mad at me for it, but this judge is sitting there. He's read the two briefs right before, the day's cases come out sometimes, because they'll handle one right after another. He may not remember everything in the brief. And then, depending, but on average, you've got roughly 20 to 30 minutes for this case to happen. And it's going to affect that child's life for the next potentially 18 to 26 years, depending on what state you're in, right? So this judge is sitting there. He's got the he said, she said. But in the back of their mind, always subconsciously, consciously, whatever it is, they've been just programmed to think that dads are incapable. They can't handle raising children. And I argue, and will argue till the day I die, that has a large reason why we're at where we're at with regard to family court. And I could make this argument in many other ways, right? Every issue that men and boys face, education, domestic violence, all of them, I think, are in some way influenced by the male stereotype that's out there. And it's one that, for lack of a better way to put it, feminism has created, right? Because it really, it was been around long before the 70s, but it really took off when feminism took off in the 70s, right? Hollywood, the news, they're all largely feminist. I don't want to get political on it, but they are. Okay. So they wanted to drive that forward. And I remember, many of you aren't old enough, but I remember seeing in the 70s, they had these daytime talk shows. Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas was one, whole bunch of them, right? A couple others I'm forgetting. And they would have, say, Gloria Steinem on. And, they would inevitably start. She wasn't horrible at it, but she would make some comment and it would become a butt of jokes about dads or men or stuff like that. And it just percolated from there. I've always, if you've a regular follower of mine, or if you've watched my lives or my podcast, I bring up all the time the Brady Bunch. If you go back and watch the reruns, they're on MeTV. I actually happened to watch one this past Sunday. Because Marsha was my first love. I don't deny that. Still is my first love. And she's, by the way, a very attractive woman for 60, whatever she is. But I happened to watch it, not because of that, but because it was one of the contests with the boys and the girls. And it was the one where Greg and Marsha were driving and they had to pull up the car and you get close to a traffic cone with an egg on it. And of course, Marsha did it perfectly and Greg didn't. And again, yes, it's meant to be funny, but there was that subcontext under it. And if you look at it with an open mind and an open eyes, you can see that subcontext, right? And that's just one example. Literally every show that was out there, you were starting to see that in the 70s. And again, The Simpsons is another one. You could go all the way up till now. And if you think that isn't having an effect on men and boys, their mindset, you're crazy. Because, you know, think about it. Put yourself in the mind of an 8-year-old or 15-year-old boy, anywhere in there, right? And they're seeing this and they're going to think, well, that's going to be me when I'm a dad. I'm going to be a bumbling idiot. I'm going to need, a wife to show me how to raise the kids and all that stuff. And it's just fallacy. There's no truth to it at all. None. Men are every bit as capable of raising children as women are. Some would argue one's better than the other. So I don't. I think it's pretty much the same, right? I remember when my son was born for the first time. Um, I was scared. I had no freaking clue what I was doing raising a child. It's a little different when it's your child. I've fed babies before. I had changed diapers. I had done all that, but it's a little different when it's your child and you bring that newborn home. And in his case, he came home on Christmas Day because he was born a few days before that. So, we got home Christmas Day, the family's all around the house, and I've got this little 9, 8.5, whatever he was, pound boy, and I had no idea what I'm doing. Scared to death, but I figured it out. And I hate to say this, but my wife was in the same boat at the time, right? She didn't know any more than I didn't know any less than I did. But if you go and look at what the media portrays or the news, she somehow knew everything and I knew nothing. And that has an effect. It has a dramatic effect on the mindset of everyone, men, boys, all of that, because it just isn't fair. And that's why I wanted to kind of throw it out to you guys to see what you thought about it. Get some commentary on it, get some discussion going, because I do think it's pretty important. I'm just looking for one other thing. Hold on. Lindsay wants to join. Lindsay's my buddy. I thought I sent you an invite, Lindsay. Let me throw you up. Hold on. Bear with me, folks, because I screwed up. I forgot. I don't know if I can, Linz, at this point. Oh, wait, now I can. Hold on. Email's coming, Linz. So, kind of throw in the comments. What do you guys think? How do you, more precisely, I think we all can agree on the mindset that's out there, but what do you think the effect is that's having on people? Because I think it affects both men and women. I think that, sorry, I'm just doing one thing while I'm doing another here. Hold on. Bear with me, folks. Little technical difficulties here. But I would be interested to see what you guys think as far as the effect it's having and what kind of an effect, as we move forward with society, because it just, as I said, I was watching the Brady Bunch the other day, but I was watching, I was on, I think it was Paramount. There was another show that was on. I don't even remember the name of it. It was the guy from 2.5 Men. He played Alan in 2.5 Men, which was another, again, pretty bad show when it comes to showing how a dad works. But he's basically playing the same character in this new show, which the show is awful, by the way. Just awful. But it blew my mind that that's what they were doing. It's I don't get it. I don't get where the benefit is even to women. So that's why I wanted to kind of throw it out to you guys. Lindsay, it's on the way. And see what you guys thought, because I'll tell you, I do think it's having a dramatic effect. So put comments out. I'm checking the various social medias as we're chit-chatting here. And I will jump into the comments in a moment. I just wanted to make sure Lindsay was available to jump in and do her thing. So I see she's been putting some comments in. I'm just going to scroll through some of the comments while we're kind of sitting here. Um, Ben asked, "Did you ever delve into evolutionary psych academic research?" I'm actually Ben. I'm actually working on doing a podcast on that, um, and some of that. Uh, Specifically with the evolution of men and women, but psychology is part of it. So have I delved into it? The answer is yes, I have. And I'm certainly no expert on it, so I'm trying to find an expert to come on with me. So if you know one, let me know. It's Legend said, I searched but couldn't find it. What were you looking for? It's Legend. The podcast. It's on YouTube. Men Need to Be Heard. If you go in my bios, in the link tree in my bios, there's links to shows, there's links to all my stuff. Um, so feel free to jump in and go watch them. Um, Chic in Pink. I love your name. Hello. Um, Johnny said Hank Hill is a good man. I've never watched that show. I've seen it, but I don't know that. Mr. Nice Guy said, "What's the subject?" We're talking about breaking male stereotypes. I say male, but I also mean fathers as well, right? Is that mindset that we can't do anything? And I'm going to get into something else that came up this week that's along these lines, which is hilarious. So Angel Warrior, one of my regulars, just look at Al Bundy and Married with Children. Yes, exactly. Um, it's it's a funny show. Don't get me wrong. I get that it's supposed to be humorous, but you never see the other side of it, do you? You never see them, um, saying, showing the. I'm bringing Lindsay on now, so stay tuned. All right. So Lindsay, I gotta switch cameras here. Hang on. You TikTokers, bear with me. Close that one. Add that one. Ooh, you're on, Linz. Can you hear me?
I can.
I gotta adjust the screen because I'm using StreamYard again. By the way, guys, I'm using StreamYard and it seems to be working pretty well. There's my girl. I call her my girl. I shouldn't really do that, should I, Lindsay?
Well, I mean, Eric's not here, and he doesn't seem to care.
There we
Kidding,
go.
kidding. That's humor, guys.
Oh, he knows we're just having fun. So Lindsay's on. So what do you think, Lindsay, about what I've been yapping about for the last 15 or so minutes?
I absolutely agree. I think we're gonna be on the same page here. But like the most egregious example of bumbling dad syndrome that I can think of recently is the way that they portray the dad on the new Hotel Transylvania. Johnny, he's like completely irrelevant. Well, I have unfortunately watched more kids' movies recently than you, and I'm sitting there at the screen going, really? Really? It's the same character scrubbed up, rewashed, and translated and thrown into whatever show, and it's like, it's horrible.
I haven't seen that one, so I can't comment on the specifics of it. But I do have a question that now that you're on that I want to ask you. So again, my kids are in their 30s, so we're well past that. But yours are both below 10, if I remember right.
Yep.
Are you seeing it affecting them now? I mean, I saw it with my kids back in the day, even on stuff like, Barney was the big one back then. But what do you see? I don't watch those.
My eldest doesn't really get it because he's autistic, but my youngest likes to imitate a lot of the behaviors. Well, I saw it on this movie or that movie. Or they'll come and ask, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." I was like, "Why don't you ask Daddy?" And I once got, "Daddy doesn't know." I'm like, "What do you mean Daddy doesn't know?"
Yeah. So Unbroken Man said they're programming our kid shows to think men are useless. That's kind of falling right in line with that comment then?
Yeah, it is. And then you hear women complain that men never try and step up. I'm like, well, you've programmed two entire generations of kids and women, because the women grew up from being kids, they grew up and became wives, to think that women or men don't know how to do anything. I mean, yes, it's like social conditioning. And now we have this mistaken idea that, well, men are completely helpless without us. They don't know how to do anything. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, if he's that helpless and you don't like playing mother, then I have a very serious question. Why'd you marry him?
Ooh, you throwing down.
If he's that incompetent, why did you marry him? Why did you insist that he put a ring on it, so to speak? Because a woman has the power to say yes or no to that.
Yeah.
So then my next question is, you willingly entered the relationship with a man that you think can't tie his own shoes,
Oh man, you're.
are mad that you have to mother him, and then you proceeded to reproduce with this man.
I'm just fixing the screen while you're talking. Keep going.
Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, my dear, but that seems like a prison entirely of your own making. And then I always get, you don't understand. No, I don't, because I married a smart man.
Well, he's a brilliant man if he married you. Oh, I said it. There. See, Eric, I'm on your side, buddy. There. Now the screen looks somewhat normal. Um so what's the reply you get with that?
I always get, well, he was smart
I
before I married him. And I was like, no, no, you treated him like an equal when you were dating, and then you got married and you decided you wanted to be his mother. Despite the fact that you like to complain, I'm not your mother, you still treat him like a child and then get surprised when
Yep.
he turns around. And because what is the thing that girls or women like to say now is, uh I teach him how I want to be treated. Well, if you're treating him like a child and you're acting like his mother, then are we really surprised, ladies? Again, it's a prison of your own making. Like, you are unwilling to accept the role you play in being the architect of your own unhappiness.
It's a really good point. And if they're treating men like that, why would they expect men not to treat them the same way?
Like a parent.
Or like a child?
Or yeah, like a
If
child.
they're treating, if the woman's treating the man like a child, why would they expect the man not to treat the woman like the child? That's a lot logic that I just never have gotten.
Well, yeah, if you want to sit there and complain about, I'm going to teach him how I want to be treated. Well, what you're putting out is that you think of a spouse as like a dependent, like a child. Well, then he's going
Mhm.
to turn around and one of two things. He's either going to treat you like you're his mother, or more likely he's also going to treat you like a child, because that's the
Right.
behavior that you're demonstrating. And are like, well, I want to be treated like, a princess. And I'm like, well, have you ever considered that he might want to be treated like, I don't know, a prince?
Oh, you can't be a prince now. That's, Disney princes are under fire. Uh, they're horrible. Prince Charming is now a very bad person. Didn't you know that?
I'm reading comments. Hold on.
That so am
Okay.
I.
I
Actually,
got,
it's legend that he mentioned the movie Blended. That was a very good movie. I did like that one, and I am not an Adam Sandler fan.
I'm not a big fan of his either.
I never have liked him, but that was a good movie. I give him. Was it Drew Barrymore was in that one? If I
No, that
remember
was
right.
51st Dates, where
Yeah, but
she
I think
loses
yeah, no, I remember
her
that one,
memory.
but I thought he was in Blended too. I could be wrong. I'd be the first. Somebody correct me. Was Drew Barrymore in Blended? I'm curious to know. Yeah, looking at some of the comments, I just wanted to kind of scroll through someone. Um, you know, it's just so weird that even now, like I mentioned the Brady Bunch earlier, 50 years later, they still think it's the right thing to do. Even though you look around and look where society's at, you know, and they still think it's the right thing to do. The logic of Hollywood or the news or the media in general. I get, first of all, that their main goal is likes and clicks. I totally get that. But, if 50% of the editors are male, and it's actually more female than male now in most of them, um, why would you want to bash yourself? Where's the logic in that one? Explain that one to me, Lindsay.
That one actually is, I'm gonna use the word that I hate being used to me, but that's pick me behavior. That's, oh
Oh,
oh
wow, you went
wise
there.
oh wise woman, please accept this humble offering and do not judge us, for we have sinned. And I'm like, grow a pair, dude. Tell her no.
Oh, so did you see the picture and the story going around on Elon's World where they had a bunch of men on their knees, bowing down to women, apologizing them for oppressing them.
Yes, my ovaries have never shrunk up faster of one
Oh my
picture
god.
in my life.
So, but again, it falls into what we're talking about is how imagine if the reverse. Where's the 15 women lying on the ground on their knees, bowing down to men? Oh, that'll never happen.
No, no.
But yet
We're not
some editor said, "Sure, we'll run that story."
well, you're apologizing for shit you didn't do. And what I said in a video of mine recently is you're blaming men, expecting them to be accountable for things that men who are on a, like they're long gone. Their bones are dust, but supposedly the breathing ones are still responsible for them. I don't think so.
I, you know, you think about because I had this argument with a feminist not too long ago where she was, well, 2,000 years ago and blah blah blah, and I'm like, one, you were wrong on your argument, but two, I wasn't alive 2,000 years ago. My ancestors were probably, I don't know, gladiators in the Roman Empire at that point. I'm wishful thinking, probably, but um, why are you holding me accountable for that? And you don't even know that that's reality because history is never really what happened. It's what the person who wrote the history thinks happened. Um,
I think the condemnation of men, the portrayal of men and fathers got started as kind of a tongue in cheek, it started out as a tongue in cheek type thing to kind of poke fun at themselves. But then, like everything, someone took it too far. Someone who didn't know where the line was took it and like ran with it. And they're still running with it. Even though we're all like, stop, no, don't, come back.
See, we're gonna actually disagree on something. Although you probably
First
wouldn't.
time for everything.
I know. I actually don't think it was tongue in cheek. I think it was deliberate because you got to remember, you weren't alive then. I was. Um, that's when feminism was rocking and rolling. They were burning their bras in the street. And they wanted to support the notion that women can do anything. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. They should do that. But they thought the best way to do that was to make sure the woman won every battle with the man. Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. Lindsay's going, who's that? I can see the look on her face. You don't know, do you?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know that one.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. So let me tell that story because I'm sure 99% of the people watching this don't know it either. So back in 73, I was a young lad of about 10 years old. Billie Jean King was hands down the best women's tennis player in the world. Awesome, phenomenal athlete. Wiped the floor with anybody she wanted to. So Bobby Riggs, I mean, by the way, he was playing a character. He later admitted that. Was pretending to be a male chauvinist, right? Bobby Riggs was probably, I'm guessing, 45, 50. Billie Jean was in her prime, so late 20s. Best women's tennis player in the world. They were going to have a battle. They were going to play a set of tennis because they were tennis. And so, they handicapped him a lot. And she wiped the floor with him legitimately. And they made a boatload of money off of it. Bobby Riggs was playing a character. And I think that he was doing it. One, he was doing it to make money. Make no mistake about that. But I also think he was actually trying to support feminism by doing that. I got beat by, the best women's player in the world. He wasn't even in the top 1,000 probably of men because long past his prime. Play that forward now. So that whole mindset, right? They wanted to push this women can do anything. And Billie Jean
it's the precursor to that thing we were talking about last time with anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. I remember I don't remember what you're talking about when you mentioned it, but I remember my dad talking about about it.
Oh, it was huge.
Um, and now the opposite has happened because now they've taken like Serena or Venus Williams and then pit her against a high school tennis player, male,
Actually, it was a pro. He was the 215th best male, and he wiped the
or
floor.
maybe it wasn't in tennis.
Are you thinking of a soccer team?
They have put, I think, a women's team or something against
Yep.
high school players
Yep. Soccer.
and soccer
12
and
nothing.
football to the rest of the world. Uh,
No, the real
and
football. Never mind.
they didn't. Yes, I'm from Texas, so football is religion here. Um, and the teenagers beat the women, but yes, it's
Yeah, they
well,
didn't just beat them; they wiped the floor with them. And then it just happened again, by the way, recently near me in North Carolina, where a bunch of, I think it was semi-pro men, took on, like, I think it was the Women's World Cup team, and wiped the floor with them. And it's just, again, when you go back to, that's why I say, when you go back to the early 70s, when all this was starting to break out and they had that tennis match, wasn't really a match, but I think it was all to drive that mindset that girls are superpower girls can beat any guy. And now that's carried forward. So now your sons are being affected by it, by stuff that happened 50 years ago. And it kind of drove that whole mindset that Hollywood picked up, the media picked up, politicians have picked up.
well,
It
yeah.
all
So
comes out of that stuff.
I love watching like action movies and whatnot, and they're like they have this, like Scarlett Johansson's character, and she's taking on all these guys. I'm like, no, like it is possible. It is possible for someone who is smaller to take out someone who is bigger, but not by brute strength.
No.
Like
Kill
you'd have
Bill.
to,
Remember Kill
yeah,
Bill?
yes, I do.
Love those movies, by the way. All-time favorites. But Uma would have got her ass handed to her.
And the simple fact of the matter is that even if a woman is punching as hard as she can, a man is punching as hard as he can. There's going to be a difference in level in force applied.
Exactly.
So hitting as hard as she can do damage, but not as much damage as a man who's hitting as hard as he
It's
can.
biology and physics. It's really it's science. I know that awful word we're not supposed to use, science. And then that, again, it doesn't put men or women down. It's just reality. And we need to accept that. But again, talking about all that, it always portrays that, talking about stereotypes, when if a woman hits a man as hard as she can and he responds, he's the bad person.
Yeah, so I actually got into this debate earlier today with someone who's like, well, men are like 99% of domestic violence. I go, no, they might do more damage, but they actually don't initiate it as much. They do.
Right.
I did the math, and it comes out to women initiate 47.296% of the time. Men initiate 27.63% of the time, and the rest is undeternable. Like they don't know who started it.
Or it's mutual. Yeah.
Well, this is including both reciprocal and non-reciprocal violence.
Okay.
So who initiated more over all of it?
Mm-hmm.
So it is in reality, women are initiating it more often than men. The problem is that women cannot do as much damage as men. So it doesn't matter really who's in terms of damage. It doesn't matter who is starting it more often if you're measuring it by damage done.
Right.
Like if you drive a bicycle into a house, you're not going to have nearly as much damage as if you drive an SUV through the garage door. But it doesn't matter. But in the sense of violence committed, you both ran into the door. Just one, completely ripped the door off the hinges, and one barely made a dent. But it doesn't really matter because even if the woman doesn't do a significant amount of damage, do you really think that emotionally that hit didn't hurt?
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, that's the argument that I always say. That they're like, well, it didn't hurt. It didn't physically hurt him. But you think that didn't hurt here? Like, how do you think a child feels when a parent, hits them or slaps them or yells at them? Even if it doesn't leave a mark, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Just because you
Right.
can't see it doesn't mean that it's not bleeding.
Right. And it's funny because when you talk about it in that aspect, in again, it kind of goes to the stereotypes again. So, men know that they're stronger, so they hold back, which leads to them getting abused more.
Well, yeah, I mean,
The stereotypes out there that men are the abusers. So the other thing that there really, to my knowledge, hasn't been much research on, and I would love to see some legitimate research on it, is when they have instances where it's individually either male on female or female on male, right? I would like to see actual true research that shows how much of it is going on. Not they'll talk about, like you were talking about, the strength differences and the result, but let's say on an average week, something is happening. And do men do abuse women 3 times a week, whereas women do it 6, or vice versa, or whatever? I actually think if they did research that, they would find that the men are getting abused more than the women, because the men won't respond. Women tend not to respond, but there is some at play with that, and I don't think it works in the other way. What do you think?
so I've only ever read one study and I can't find it, like, it was scrubbed completely from the internet, so I'm probably have to go look in. Ooh,
Shocking,
actually,
right?
shocking, right? Um, and I read the study and it said that this was not done in the US. This was done somewhere in Europe, I believe. And that women have gotten progressively more violent because men won't fight back. In
Right.
ye old yesteryear, if a woman raised her hand to her husband, he'd, deck her. Not to hurt her, but to stop her. And there's a difference between beating the crap out of someone and just gunning for them versus defending yourself, like stopping the threat. You're allowed
Mhm,
to stop the threat.
mhm.
I don't think you should go further than that, though. You could, stop the threat and then run away or leave, which is what I was taught to do. And my dad flat out told me that if anyone ever hit me, I had a right to hit them back to defend myself, male or
Absolutely.
female. I'll
Yep.
never forget the time a girl grabbed my hair. I spun around and I decked her.
I bet
You
you
could tell
did
she'd
too.
never been hit before, ever.
Yeah, well, that plays into what I was talking about, is if you are hitting someone, whether it's in a high school or in a relationship or whatever, and you've never faced the consequences of it,
You
I
get
got
real
faith
bold.
you're
You
gonna
get
be more
real
likely.
bold when you haven't faced the consequences. But
Yeah, it's gonna
the
be
same study also showed that women actually commit more abuse total because when you're counting verbal abuse,
well, you got, yeah,
the
there's verbal,
yelling,
yeah.
the yelling, the emasculation, the how stupid are you? You can't do anything right. And that kind of abuse, the emotional and psychological abuse, women have been doing that for centuries. We have historical evidence of them doing that in diary entries and whatnot. The stereotypical, like, overbearing mother or overbearing wife that you see in, like, old Victorian cartoons, it
Mhm,
came from somewhere. So
mhm.
to this idea that, oh, well, women have only recently started doing this. No, no, we are just as capable as violence and of being terrible people as men, and we've been doing it just as long as men, because newsflash, this is a people problem, not a gendered one.
Thank you for saying that. You talk about the historical, you talk about all of it now. It's again, we're talking about stereotypes, right? Women are the demure, innocent, never hurt a fly, whereas men are nothing but the opposite of that. And it just, I fear for, like, your boys, because it's not just happening, it's escalating through the decades. And you look online now and see, I mean, I know you see this, but how many videos do we see where women are bashing men? They're bashing their husbands. I mean, that infuriates me. If you go online, like, what was the one? I got to do a video on it. The orange peel thing. Peel my
Oh,
orange.
do not get me started on that crap at all.
Well, I've been watching because I have one saved, and I'm going to do my little play off of it. But I've been watching that, and I'm like, Why would you do that to your spouse and post it online? Now, I don't think women realize, and I want to get your opinion on this, how a guy feels about that. Because let me tell you, if a woman did that to me and I was in a relationship with her, that relationship would end then and there if she posted it online.
Shit, if a friend did that to me, I would no, I'm done with you. But to do that to your spouse, the person that you're supposed to have and to hold in sickness and in health till death do you part, for better or for worse, that's just like, tell me you have no understanding of what those vows mean without telling me you don't have any understanding of. This is the person that you're supposedly picked to be your partner, your brother in arms as you go through the battle of life, and you want to play stupid ass games with them.
For clicks and likes. So you're
Yes,
trying to,
for validation of people who
yeah.
aren't in your marriage and are probably you're never going to meet.
You know,
Why?
the one I have saved has, I don't know, 9,000 comments on it. And I didn't scroll through them all, but the majority of them were like, essentially, I call them the "you go girls," cheering her on for doing it. And I'm like, and her husband was not happy. I could tell. But he was just being nice. But he's like, why are you videoing me? You're not putting this out on the internet. And there was another one of these little games they play a few months back. It was the same thing. And the guy's like, why are you doing this? Why is your phone up while you're, asking me this? And I forget what thing that was, but what I don't think women realize is when you do that, men take that very personally, and you are breaking the trust of that man.
Well, yeah, you're humiliating
You're
them
humiliating him.
or putting them on display for everyone to see. And it really is a trust thing, because for example, for my husband, Mr. Squirrely, if you were to meet him, to everyone else, he is calm, kind of reserved, very stoic. And they're like, and then they see me and they're like, she's insane. How do you put up with that? And I go, he's batshit crazy too. Uh, he just doesn't. I'm the only one who ever gets to see it. So me taking what the I guess honor of showing me who he really is and trusting me with it, and for me to take that and put it out there for everyone else to see, is like the ultimate betrayal, because that's for my eyes only. And it's the male equivalent of a woman putting her like body out there for all these other guys to see. Like, she wants validation from all of them. She wants to put herself on display for everyone else to see. And um it would be the equivalent in this instance of a man posting his taking like boudoir pictures of his wife or girlfriend or
Oh
whatever,
God, if he ever
and
did that.
putting them out there for everyone to see. And she would be rightfully upset, because I
Mhm.
wore that for you. I only did that for you. Why are you doing this to me?
Great way to
And
put it.
this is the exact same thing. This is the male equivalent of that. You're vulnerable and yourself, and the horrifying reality of being known, which is terrifying for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And you've trusted this person with yourself, your whole self, and they turn around and show what is only supposed to be for you to the world. And women are like, it's no big deal. It is a very big deal. And then you wonder why going forward men are so dismissive of your own boundaries, because you have taught him through your actions that boundaries are really just, preferences. They're not lines in the sand. They're not hard, edges. They're something that can be smudged or stepped over or twisted or just erased at will.
Mhm.
And then they don't realize that what they're teaching guys, that's what they're teaching guys. So then fast forward 10, 12 years, some guy's going to do that to them. They're like, why are you doing this to me? Because
Oh yeah.
you taught him it was okay.
Yep.
That's why.
It's
You played
interesting because
yourself.
I'm looking in the comments. Stevie B put, "How would you know if they posted if the wife girlfriend has blocked you on social media?" And I've actually, and no offense to Stevie whatsoever, but I've actually seen that comment made by some of the people who post these, and I'm like, two things. One, what makes you think he doesn't have a second account he's watching you on? Because I would. And two, Trust me, your friends, his family, they're finding you and they're seeing these videos. They're going to talk to him about it. He's going to find out. So this belief that, well, if I just block him, he's never going to know. Oh, you have no idea. you
Well,
know,
yeah, you can put blinders on him, but you can't put blinders on everybody else. And the minute one of his family members or friends sees it, it's like just because I have parental blockers on my son's cell phone doesn't mean that another friend who doesn't have parental blockers isn't fully capable of handing my son his unlocked phone and saying, "Here."
and the way social media works, they know you're married to this person. They know your friends. They're going to suggest back and forth and all that stuff. So the odds of you just by blocking him, making sure that his whole family, coworkers, all that stuff, someone's going to see it. You have to understand that. And there is, if I were to walk into a job and my line worker next to me said, "Oh, I saw that video your wife posted, of her making you peel an orange and all this stuff." Oh my. That would be the worst. That would be worse than me seeing it, because that you're hitting right here to a man. You're just tearing his heart out. And that's why I see these videos, and but getting back to the topic with the stereotype, I think what drives them to do stuff like it, because you don't see it really too much the other way. I'm not saying there's none, but you don't see a lot of men doing the videos to humiliate and embarrass their wife or girlfriend for clicks and likes. You just don't.
No, not unless it's completely staged and she's in on it, and you can always
Yeah,
tell
like
by her. Yeah.
yeah, there's some out there. There's some, like, I know Justin Nunley's account. They had a little bit about, but you can tell it's deliberate. They're doing that. There's a few of them like that. I'm talking about where blindly, like if you and I were married and I did the video and posted it out, you don't see guys doing that because they
No.
don't want it to happen to them, and they would feel mortified.
Well, yeah,
Mortified
it's
is a strong word.
for lack of a better word, the remember the golden rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So we teach little boys. We teach little boys. I've seen mothers do this to children, and I've witnessed it in all of my mom groups or when I'm in the doctor's office with the pediatricians. It all happens. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't touch anybody. We are really good with instilling boundaries in boys. We absolutely suck at instilling boundaries in girls. For example, if my son wants to hug his girlfriend, not girlfriend, but he's 7, so he's not a girlfriend.
Friend who's a
Friend who is
girl.
a girl, and she says no, everyone, the teachers, the other parents, the aides will say, "Well, you can't force her. She wants to hug him and he says no. Oh, come on, let her hug
Yeah.
you. Just let her do it. It's okay. It's cute. Just let her do it, Matthew. Don't be rude." Excuse me? That actually happened once. I went to go pick him up and that happened, and he said no, and everyone could have said no. He said no. No means no. And I looked at this girl in the eye and said, "Don't touch him."
Good for you. But a lot of moms wouldn't do that because they
Oh,
bought into this whole.
the teacher was like she didn't she's like, "I've never had that reaction before." And I was like, "Well, you have now."
But again, I think this all plays into how society gives itself permission to do these things because of those stereotypes that were created 50 odd years ago and continue to this day. Dixon, thank you for the heart. Christopher, thank you for the rose. Um, there's been no consequences in the media. When I say media, I'm primarily mean Hollywood, but I'm talking news, whatever. Where again, I could go back to Brady Bunch. There were times, I remember there was one that was like a Halloween thing, and the boys were made to look bad because they scared the girls, and girls got them back, and everybody cheered and all this stuff. I think it creates that permissiveness, and now that it's gone online, it's on steroids.
Yeah.
So then you get these orange peel videos, which, look, I get it. Some of them are trying to be funny. Some of them are staged. It's pretty obvious when they are for most people, at least for me. But some of them are just flat out designed to embarrass the guy. And I'm like, I sit there and go, that would never happen in the reverse. I think it just makes it, you see these videos, some of them have millions of views.
Oh, and the comments are absolutely
Oh, the comments.
disgusting.
And yeah, well, I mentioned the one that I have saved, 8 to 10,000 comments somewhere in there on it. I don't think I didn't read them all, but I don't think I saw a single negative comment in there. And I'm like, okay, so here's this person, one person put out a video, hundreds of thousands have seen it, thousands have commented on it. So they're all going to be more inclined to do it. And it goes to the stereotyping. They're stereotyping the husband as, one, an idiot. Two, if he doesn't do the orange thing and tells her to go get it, then he's an ogre. There's no win for the guy on these.
Well, in a couple of them, I also saw that a lot of them. So this girl, the woman, is asking, "Hey, can you peel this orange?" Like acting like she doesn't know how. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this called weaponized incompetence? Aren't you angry when they do it to you? Like, this is an actually true version of weaponized incompetence, not just you didn't do it my way. This
Right.
is, I'm helpless, save me. It's like, and I'm just like, wait a minute, didn't we spend all of the last 2 years yelling at men for weaponizing their incompetence, and then here we are making it a trend for women, and we're back to rules for he but not for she.
And what is the benefit in the long run with it?
Well, that's just it. I don't understand, because it is to their detriment. Because
Exactly.
you're
Yeah.
teaching men to treat you like children, or you're teaching men to stay away from you, or it is to your detriment, because now they're avoiding women like the plague. And I don't honestly blame them. They're like, what are you going to do when your children go on dates? First of all, my children aren't allowed to date till they're 20. And even then, they're not going out without, at 20, me talking to her, getting her signed affidavit consent to anything that happens on the state, and he's wearing a GoPro.
You're kind of half joking, but you just stole one of my few videos that I'm working on, which is
I'm only joking by a little bit.
You men should start wearing GoPros on dates,
Body cams,
and at work, and everywhere they go. And actually talk to a lawyer. It is legal, for the most part, even in two-party states. And every single time you're going to have, let's call them intimate relations, she has to sign a waiver every single time, even if you're married. Because, you see 20 years later, the guy I interviewed on my podcast, Patrick, it's coming out in 2016. He was arrested for an accusation of something he supposedly did in the early 90s. Now, he's been completely exonerated because he wasn't there. But in fact, she accused 5 different guys, one of whom had never met her. But everybody believed it. And that's why men have to start protecting themselves. And, I've posted this in a couple of videos and comments that I've put out, that if I were working in a corporate environment now, I would go to HR and I would say to them, I do not feel comfortable here. So 2 things need to happen. One, I don't ever want to be in a room alone with a woman. I want a second person there, or third person, excuse me, at no matter what it is, a meeting, whatever. And 2, I want to wear a GoPro or a body cam. HR departments will go apoplectic about that. But it's a legitimate request.
Well, yeah, it's a legitimate concern. And I think it is actually one of the last holdovers of misogyny. Yes, I hate that word, but here it is the belief that women are not dangerous because we're smaller, not as strong, whatever, which is actually, and now a man, of course, knows that we're that dangerous, because plenty of men have been hurt by women. Like, we don't actually have to raise a hand to hurt someone. We can say something, our weapons are different, but we're just as capable of causing harm as a man, just in different ways. So it's actually, whenever I get accused of internalizing my misogyny, I go, well, wait a minute, aren't you guilty of it far more than I? Because you were under the mistaken impression that because you are female, you can't hurt a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, wait, But and they're like eyes crossed because they just don't understand it. And I go, isn't that the whole thing? You see it all the time in young girl like media that's it's targeted at young women, and we're even taught this to some degree by older women, is that the best weapon we have is to be underestimated, because they're not expecting us to either be hiding, a stabby pointy stick or a pew pew or anything else. They're always going to underestimate us because they think we're an easy target,
Mhm.
and that is to their detriment. Now, so it is actually, I argue, more misogynistic to believe us incapable of doing harm than to acknowledge, like treating us equally. True
Mhm.
equality is acknowledging that women are just as capable as men of being terrible, horrible, you know, insufferable human beings who can cause equal amounts, although different kinds of damage. The misogynistic standpoint is to believe that we, by virtue of being women, are harmless. That is misogyny. And it's one of the few true examples of it that actually exists today, because as we all know, most things that are called misogyny nowadays aren't.
Right. Well, I mean, it flies in the face of, if a woman can do anything a man can, what makes you think she can't hurt a man?
Yeah,
They don't like it when you bring that one up.
I
Oh, they
saw I saw something, a video that was like talking about women can do anything that men can do, and then the comment was, "Yeah, men are shit." And I go, so if women are the same as men and all men are shit, all women are shit. I was blocked instantly.
they don't like when you bring those out. There was a comment that came up, and I wanted to find it because I wanted to see. Shoot, that's the problem. Sometimes it jumps ahead on me. I had it saved, and then it went. Whoop. I'll find it. But getting back to the thing, when you look at your sons, because this is an interesting thing. Like you were talking about dating and all that. Um, they're what, 10, 20 years out from dating and all of that, right? By the time they're
I
20,
can
30 years old,
hope.
somewhere in there. Um, where do you see it at that point? I just I
I
don't
would
I
like
actually don't
to
think it'll
I would
exist.
like to hope that we will have finally swung the pendulum back a little ways, but I think we're about 20 years out from that until finally the enough women have sons that are treated terribly for them to go, "Oh, everything I was told was a lie." Like we have to, this is going to sound absolutely horrible, and I don't wish for it, but I think this is the reality of what's going to happen, is we have to reap what we've sown completely, like bring in the full harvest before we
Mhm.
realize, "Oh, we have salted the fields." Cuz
You don't think that's already happening? I do.
it is happening to an extent,
It's very small,
but
but
it's
it's
not
there.
big enough. Enough people haven't been
Right,
affected yet, and
right.
it is it is the unfortunate calculus. This is a different quote, but the unfortunate fortunate calculus of war. But it's the same concept. In order for a society-wide change to happen, there has to be a larger percentage of people that are affected by a problem, because most people are very self-centered. They don't care about a problem if it doesn't somehow directly affect them. It's
Mhm,
like we were talking about, you've mentioned this several times on your podcast, and various people that you've talked to have mentioned this, is um it's not a surprise that a lot of mothers, or the women who support fathers' rights and men's rights, are stepmothers, because they're watching a husband go through it with his, ex, or they're watching their son go through it with his ex. I'm the anomaly in the fact that I'm still married to the man I had children with, and I'm not a second wife. Although I get accused of being the second wife all the time. They're
I've
like, "You're a
seen
second wife,
I've
aren't you?" I'm
seen
like,
that
"No,
I
actually, I'm not." But I am the child of divorce, and my parents' divorce is, per most divorces, was actually pretty amicable. But
Mhm,
even for being on a scale pretty amicable, it still wasn't what I would call an even split. My mom still got to keep the house, the cars, all of it. My dad was left pretty much out in the cold. Um, and that was considered winning back then because it was amicable.
mm,
But my mom still came out ahead, for lack of a better word. Like it wasn't split immediately down the middle. And it terrifies me, because back to the dating thing, back in ye yesteryears, we used to, when men and women would go a courting, they had a a chaperone. I'm gonna do that with I'm joking, but not really joking. Is when my kids first start dating, everything they do will be chaperone. Now I'll be 20 feet behind them, but I will be watching that little girl like a hawk.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because now, mind you, I've told you, my kids are all in their 30s. My oldest is 37. And I remember when he was 14, 15. So we're talking late 90s. Even then, the girls were aggressive.
Oh, we've always been aggressive.
And yeah, you stole my thunder again. Stop it.
I'm sorry.
And I remember having the conversation with someone about that, and I'm like, geez, I can't believe that's and that particular person who was older than me said exactly what you just said. What makes you think it's any different now than it was back when you were a kid and when you were 14 years old? And then I got thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, when I was 14, I did have girls pretty aggressive with me, but I never really thought about it that way, you know. So I guess it has always been that way. I think what's different now is just the medium used. Back in my day, it was a rotary phone, and they would call constantly. When it was my son, it was cell phones had just started and PDAs.
Well, prior to that, it was when my parents were kids. It was hanging out at the street corner where you knew, like by the basketball courts, there'd always be a group of girls, always where, and the boys would move, and the girls would move too, so that they were always within the boys' field of vision. Before that, it was, you want to go out and be on display. I remember my grandmother talking about how they used to go to like the farmers market, the one that was the old one that was born in 1917. So this is like the 20s and 30s, and she's like going to the farmers market and wearing their prettiest dresses and making sure that they, flirt, and they would accidentally drop a handkerchief. Like they would already pick out the guy whom they want to pick it up, and they would drop it on purpose, and then he would pick it up and he'd think, oh, thank you, and the guy's thinking, oh, it's spontaneous. No, she had you picked out, and I want that one before, like buying a car. I want that one. You go in, I want this one. This is what I'm going to pay for it, and all the stats before you just blindly walking off the street. And here the guy is thinking that it's serendipitous, but no, she's been stalking you for at least a month before she dropped that handkerchief. Like girls have always been this way. We were just quiet about it. We didn't want to like show our hand, and now we brag about it.
Yeah, you had me thinking about a video I saw not too long ago. It might have been this week even, where a girl was posting that, we're sending you signals, and guys are not responding to them. They're not picking them up. And my response to the video was, how are we supposed to know what signals you're sending and whether they're because if we misread a signal, now you got a harassment charge on you.
Did you see the one where Lynn, Green Cow Lynn, where the girl is doing the thing with the eyes? And she's like, what about this? What about this? And
I duetted it on Men Need to Be Heard 2 this morning. Go check it out if you want to see it. Oh my God, it was probably her best video ever. I got to send her a private message on that because I was in tears. I was laughing so hard.
I cackled. I startled my dog. But and the signals vary from woman to woman. Like what I think is obvious may not be obvious. Like another woman may not be obvious. And I have just learned that you just need to like be overt. Guys don't pick up on the subliminal unless it's like right in front of their face. It's like the video, there's several video where the guy knows whether or not he's gonna get laid by what pajamas she's wearing as she walks by. And the woman's like, oh, and because of course she's participating in this video, so she's already told him what the lines are.
Right.
But if she thinks that the average man would be able to pick up on, this nightgown means this night, these pajamas mean that. No, because most guys I know are going to try regardless. Like she could be wearing potato sack, moo, look terrible, sneezing. He's going to go.
Yeah.
Like, so you're saying there's a chance, as my husband always tells me. Because the worst she can do is say no. So you're just You're going to try anyway. But what women, I see women all the time who say, this is obvious. And I'm like, no, it's not. Well, you understood. And like, I only understood because you told me what it meant.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, it's one of two things at play. Either we don't know it's not obvious to us, or we do get it, but we've assessed that there's a risk involved. Like I would say, approaching a girl at a bar, right? So, yeah, she's sending a signal. I think she wants me to approach her, but if I do, I'm taking a huge risk that I'm going to get a drink thrown in my face or slapped, or she's going to scream at the top of her lungs. She's going to mock me, make fun of me, whatever. So I'm not going to approach.
Well, I actually had this conversation today with someone on one of your videos.
Oh, no.
She said, I think it was meant to be the original, and the one without the black border.
Yeah, that's two.
That's two. Okay, and she said, no, thank you. I'll let men approach me. And I go, and when they approach you and you don't think they're attractive, are you going to accuse them of being creepy or harassment? She goes, no, why would I do that? And I go, what makes you think that I would do that? And I go, because there's thousands of women out there that's exactly what they're doing. And she proceeded to say, well, you live in another world because that's not happening. And I go, whether or not you accept it or not, this is the reality for most men, that if a woman doesn't find you attractive and you shoot your shot with her politely, you will get accused of being a stalker, being creepy. Your picture will end up online with, this whole made up story, like one snapshot, and they filled in your the entire book based on one snapshot, which that doesn't work. Because and then this is what's happening. And she's like, no, it's not. And I go, yes, it is. And it's going to happen with or without your acceptance of it, because that's the reality of it. That's the reality. And it's happened often enough, and enough girls have blasted these guys that, again, just like, if you block your spouse on social media, that doesn't mean he won't see it. The other guys out there, all of the other ones who haven't been burned, have still seen these guys get trolled or dragged or completely eviscerated, tarred and feathered in the court of public opinion, that they're now wary. So even though it hasn't happened to them, they've seen it happen to enough of their friends, acquaintances, or just enough guys in general that they're also wary. It's like, here in Texas, I've never been bitten by a rattlesnake. Does that mean that I walk barefoot in the field behind my fence? No, because guess what I know lives back there? I mean, it's that kind of idea.
For being prudent. Yeah, it's funny because I think I'm generalizing, so I'll get slammed for this, but I think women don't really believe that men talk about these things. Now, we don't spend 5 hours talking about it, but if we were to approach a girl or a woman at a bar, ask her out, she humiliates us, trust me, we're letting our bros know that it happened. Again, we're not spending hours on it. It's like, geez, I went up to this girl. It would be a little bit more colorful than the way I'll put it, but she, humiliated me. Not going to do that again. And then we go back to whatever we're doing. Guys do talk. We do share the information. But I think a lot of women don't think we do, because we don't communicate the same, as we've talked about before.
You also don't advertise that you talk.
No, we don't. We're very private. That goes back to the orange thing, right? That's one of the big bro code things, is what's private is going to stay private. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Whereas, again,
don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, it goes to the worst thing a woman can do in a relationship. And a guy will test her early. He will share some piece of information with her. And if it gets back to him that she put it online or told her friends or whatever, that trust will never come back. It's gone. And a lot of guys don't even realize they do it. I've talked with guys about it. I've never done that. And I said, did you ever do this? Yeah. Well, there you did it. Right. Guys are very private. We don't broadcast things at all. And, if I have a good friend here, him and I talk all the time about various things. He's going through a divorce. I would never share his information, Even though I talk about divorce on my channels all the time, not one time have I ever referenced anything he's told me, because I respect him too much to do that to him, even though no one would have any idea I was talking about him, because that's bro code. You do not break that code. Women, on the other hand, in general, will broadcast it to everyone.
Well, it's the thing we were talking about last week is men are private and women like to discuss things in committees. So they've been told this one piece of information, and it's almost like we require multiple people in order to process it. Like it has to go through multiple brains before we can process and accept it. And I don't have that problem because I have like 8 people that live in my head anyway. So they all just talk about it amongst themselves and it never, comes out. But that was a joke, people, by the way. Haha. And people are like, what? She's crazy. Yes, we know. Nuttier than squirrel poo. And there's a reason I say don't talk about your marriage online. Don't let other people in your private life. My husband has graciously allowed me to share certain aspects of our relationship online, but I always ask him first because I never assume. Mm-hmm. And it's usually in how I react. So my point of view towards something he's done, not necessarily his side of it, because one, I don't speak for him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to be online. So guess what? He's not. And then in the things that I talk about with friends and whatnot, it's always, do you mind if I tell this story or if I talk about this aspect, because it leads into stuff that we, talk about. Right. But you have to ask first. And most women do not do that courtesy. They don't. It's like, well, you told me, and therefore, or it's like that stupid thing that I've seen women say, oh, well, if you told me, that means you told my whole family and my best friend. No, he told you. You have to divorce yourself. Like, this is not a colony. You're not a like mold and you live in a colony. You are a separate creature, individual, and you don't have to share it with the masses. You don't.
So a couple of people are saying they can't hear my mic. Is it any better now? I just cranked it. I think it's TikTok that's having the problem, not elsewhere. So let me know if you can hear me right now. Can you hear me now? They can hear you. They can't hear me well. So you guys are not hearing me. I think I'm getting banned by TikTok, Lindsay, because I have my mic maxed right now. Wow. I'm looking at tech. Keep talking, Linz. Oh, they can hear me, but they're saying I'm quiet.
I am not related to Foamy Squirrel. I don't know who that is.
I'm going to let you run with that one. Is it any better now? I mean, I literally have the mic is right here, guys. It's like it's not that far from me. But I'm actually seeing it on TikTok. Meanwhile, on my other thing, it's back.
Well, you need to make love to it like Beyonce does.
So anyway, actually, Matthew said I'm a radio nerd. I work in radio also, but I'm also a musician, and I'm using one of my really good mics. It's TikTok, I think, because I'm looking at my meters and they're like maxed right now. Anyway, so let's get through some of the comments there, Lynn. See what have you been watching them as much as I've tried to?
No, because I can't see him except on my phone.
Oh, gotcha. Let me scroll back. Matthew, thank you for the heart. Flat Earth Man said the Earth is flat. Prove me wrong.
Go ahead, if the Earth is flat, then why is it daylight and then night? If it was flat, it'd be day all the time.
Good one. Unbroken Man said real football. Just messing with you. He's talking about soccer. No. I'm not going there. I'm still looking for that. Oh, It's Legend said Elizabeth Bathory. Look her up. Do you know anything about that? I don't.
Yes, I do know who Elizabeth Bathory is. She's the female Count Dracula. She it's Elspeth Bathory. She was a Hungarian noblewoman, and she is one of the most prolific female serial killers in the entire world. She's called the female Dracula. She is known for, she believed that bathing in the blood of virgins would make her forever youthful. So she probably killed between, they estimate anywhere between 200 to over to 800 of her peasants. And finally, she didn't drink the blood, but she bathed in it, and she occasionally, I think, ingested it, but she was more known for bathing in it than anything else. And finally, so many people came up missing that the king got involved and had to go investigate. And they found out that because she had all these, they had to do something with the bodies. So they found all these bodies. They found out what she'd been doing, that her maids had been helping her. So they walled her and her maids up alone in a room and bricked her in, and she died of starvation. Well, actually, she died of dehydration, but
You taught me something new.
History nerd.
Well, I'm a history nerd too, but I didn't know about that one. So I appreciate you joining in on that one. I had the comment and it went away again. Hang on, bear with me 1 second, because this is really, it goes to what we were talking about. So here it is. I got it. So this was through Cloud Thoughts podcast. He was in a restaurant, and a woman and her uncles were at a table drinking and singing loud. He joined them because they asked me to, and then she groped me under the table right next to my partner. And the reason that kind of struck me is I'll share my similar story, which was I was at my 10-year high school reunion with my first wife, and I was sitting at a table, and next to me on the other side was my girlfriend from high school, who then proceeded to grope me under the table. And I was not a happy camper. And I was good. That friendship ended right then and there, by the way. But again, it goes to how this was it would have been 91 because I graduated in 81. Even 30 odd years ago, women were doing stuff like that. What?
I have a story.
Why would someone do that? Like literally, my wife is on the chair next to me and you're on the other side. I'm in the middle. Why?
So my husband and I had just gotten married. We were in our first duty station. We were at Tinker up in Oklahoma, and we go out to a club. We arrive together. We stand together the entire time. We do everything together. He gets my drinks because he doesn't trust me to go. Well, he doesn't not trust me to go up to the bar by myself. He doesn't trust me going up to the bar by myself because you know what people do in clubs. He's less likely to get drugged than I am. He bought all my drinks. He spent the entire time looking down my shirt. But the woman, one of the other airmen, they're all airmen, even if they're women, spent the entire time flirting with him, trying to get his attention, pressing her boobs together, and just all of this, of course. And he's just oblivious, which I love that about him, but still. So I watched her do this for hours. And we're done, and we go out to eat to Hooters because they're the only place that is open at 2:00 in the morning in Oklahoma City. And we're sitting down and she sits next to him. Well, he's like, no. So he goes over and scoots further and further to like squeeze in between me and the girl who decides she doesn't want to be like squeezed in. So she goes to sit across from him and continues to flirt and throw herself at him. And he finally gets up to go to the bathroom. And she looks at me and she goes, I don't understand. I don't get it. What do you have that I don't? And without skipping a beat, I look her dead in the eye and say his last name. And she goes, well, it gets better. She goes, well, I knew he was married. And I go, no, stop. Hold on. Everything you say after that is irrelevant. You knew he was married and you still threw yourself at him. And then I called her
I'm sure you
WHORE. I called her a couple names. But I mean, it doesn't matter that if I was there or not, the fact that she knew he was married and still tried. And it's like, what makes you think that's okay? And I mean, I know from a psychological standpoint, I know why women do it, but that doesn't make it acceptable.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's, like Intelligence said, I have a woman partner and I still am propositioned by crude videos by women. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't get propositioned here on this app. And I'm like, and I'm not talking 50-year-old women. I'm talking 20-year-old women. And I'm like, what?
On Instagram, because most of my
No,
uh,
TikTok for the most
I
part.
know, no, but for me on Instagram,
Oh, yeah.
because most of my content is geared towards guys, I get the same crap that you get, and I'm like, "What about me screams male?" Except my comment. But
Yeah. I mean, it's
I have just now on TikTok reached that level of notoriety, I guess, where I have started getting DMs from random guys. And I'm like, the first time it happened, and I got like, this guy wrote me a love letter, not a short DM. It was like a whole long thing. And I just laughed.
we got those.
I showed it to my husband. I'm like, look, honey, I finally made it.
But again, kind of bringing we're kind of circling right back to the topic at hand, which is stereotypes. Men have that stereotype that they'll do what you just said, right? They'll send love letters and all that stuff. Whereas women are completely innocent. I'm here to tell you, folks, I get the exact same things. Um, so again, there's a stereotype that exists that, one, men are out cheating or trying to get with married women when married women do the same thing, or women try and do it with married guys. And, some of the propositions that I get, Penthouse Forum would like to have them.
Well,
For those of you old
I think
school.
that goes back to know what you're trying to catch and choose your bait wisely. The people that do try, male versus female, or know that a woman is more likely to respond to a love letter, a guy is more likely to respond to, nudes, but both are stereotypical. And they're like, "Are you married?" Yes. I've also gotten the question, are you when you're ready to leave your husband, message me. I'm like, no.
Oh, that's a common one you'll hear women say to men. Like,
Yeah,
I
like
can make your
when you're ready for better. And I'm like, what makes you think you're better?
I can make your life better, or when you're ready to have a real woman. I get that one a lot. And I'm like, you think it makes you a real woman to say something like that? It's like gross. I mean, it's just it blows my mind because again, it goes back to this mindset that this is all men doing it when in reality, women are every bit as guilty.
Actually, I've gotten more propositions from women than I have ever gotten from men.
I'm not touching that one. That's too easy. That's too easy. Sean asked me a question. I'm gonna segue right out of that one quick. Sean asked, let's talk about the DV and shelter posting I just saw and what can be done. So real quick, I want to talk about that. So I've done a few videos. I'm guessing at which one it is, Sean, but my friend Bill Corbett is opening or trying to open a shelter called Daddy's House. And it will be in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm working with him on it, trying to raise funds for it. We're looking to get about $500,000. That's how much it's going to take. If you go into my bio, if you want to contribute to the cause, in my bio, down in the link tree, it's towards the bottom, you will see a link to where you can donate it. It's a 501c3, so it's tax deductible. And the plan is once that one is open, I'm already starting to lay the groundwork in North Carolina to have one here. But we need the quote unquote proof of concept. So Atlanta is going to be the proof of concept because right now there's only 2 shelters in the entire United States for men. One is in Arkansas and one is in Texas, and that is it.
Dallas, to
Um,
be specific.
Dallas to be specific, and I've actually reached out to them to get them on my podcast. Kel sent a heart me, thank you. But if that's the one you're talking about, Sean, that's what you can do to help. I make nothing, not 1 penny off of it, nor would I even accept it if they offered it. Bill and I have been working on that, and somebody had mentioned earlier the Vivek Ramaswamy video. That I've kind of been on him. So I just want to give people an update if you didn't see my update because TikTok throttled the crap out of it, and so did everybody. YouTube did too. So about 2 weeks ago, he did a video, or he was on a podcast, The Breakfast Club, where he said that if a man gets a woman pregnant, he didn't illustrate whether they were one night stand, dating, affianced, married. If he gets her pregnant, he should be 100% responsible, not just for the kid, but for her as well for 18 years, which means he pays all her bills, everything, rent, mortgage, car, vacations, hair and nails, all of it. So I reached out to Vivek. I've actually reached out to the head of his campaign, and I've offered them to come on my podcast, and it's been met with crickets. A big shock there. And I also reached out to the Breakfast Club asking to go on there to give my rebuttal. But long story short, with all that, stay tuned. I will be announcing we're going to be doing a live. Bill is going to be joining me on that and we're going to have a whole thing on that. So stay tuned for that. There's my 2 shameless plugs real quick. Thanks, Lindsay, for letting me do that.
Anytime. Well, it is your show, so I should probably let you talk
No,
just
it's
a
now
little bit.
ours. Come on. I got about 5 minutes, then I have to run. Anything we haven't talked about? This show should be titled Boy Meets Squirrel. Well played. Round of applause on that. Go
I like that.
You win the internet today. You know I'm going to change it next time. That was great.
That was great.
I feel like we should shut down right now because we could never top that. My friend, another round 2 golf clap.
That was well done.
Great. I don't know what else to say.
I don't know if there's anything to say.
Yeah, I know. Angel Warrior said you should see Lady J live. She gets marriage proposals with fail every time. I've actually tried to reach out to her. I haven't heard back from her. I love her videos. I have seen her lives. I actually popped on a couple of them, and all I did was say hi, how you doing, and walk. Well, that was it. But I love her content. I'm told if that's your best fishing lure, you aren't watching a good fish. There's a good comment. It's Legends coming out with some good ones too. Matthew, some men are creeps, some women are creeps. Yeah, that's basically the way it works. I just hate the mindset that it's only one. I agree. I'm single. I've started telling girls I have a girlfriend when I'm not.
That's not actually helpful. They're
That's
more
a bad
likely
thing. I was just going to say.
Men statistically, men get hit on more often if they're wearing a wedding ring than without.
Yep. So wait a minute. I've got one here somewhere. Hold on. There it is. Go to Walmart. You can get a pack of 5 of these for $3. You want to meet a girl, just put this on and go to the gym. Enough said.
My husband hasn't worn his wedding ring in years. He can't on the flight line. It's considered a risk for gloving your finger.
Well, that makes sense. But I will tell you, these things are like catnip to women. And it's amazing how that works. That was
and
fun.
then the women who I'm still laughing about that. And then the women who get him to leave the spouse or the girlfriend or whatever, like, oh, I'm going to keep him. But no, if he could be lured away once, what makes you think you're going to be able to keep him?
And then they demonize him for it.
Right?
Angel said, Dan, are you sure Squirrely Girl's, you're not Squirrely Girl's big sister? He said that as a joke. She's my daughter. Well, not really, but I get back to, we were talking offline the other day, and I said, you're just like my daughter. It's scary, actually.
Adopted. You adopted. You chose me.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Speaking of which, just to kind of, I'm going to shamelessly plug our book real quick. So Lindsay and I are working together on a book about false allegations. We are slowly but surely trucking along on it. Stay tuned for details, but it's going to be a game changer, I think. We're looking for some really good stories that we want to share. We're going to talk about really what a false allegation is, how it affects people. We're going to share real life stories. Stay tuned. It's coming. And we got about a minute left, Linz. Anything else you want to add before I close everything down?
Nope, except I'm going to put boy meets squirrel in a shirt.
Oh my God. Now we got to do a video too. We're going to have to. That again, I got to clap on that one. That was
excellent.
Absolutely brilliant. All right, guys, we got about a minute left. So, hey, if you've watched this far, thank you. And again, all of those of you who've sent various gifts, Kel sent me a heart and a gem gun. Truly appreciate all of it. Truly appreciate all of you joining us. We're live every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30, and I'm hoping to make it a regular thing with, wait a minute, I got it this way on the screen. This one's showing up because it's a lot more fun. And, we got a lot of fun stuff coming, as I said. And the other thing, just to let you know, the podcast goes up Sundays at 11. This past week, I had Alan Donovan, who's not on TikTok, but he is on Instagram. Those of you on Instagram, from Fathers Lives Matter. We talked about what men are going through in dealing with in 2024 and the work he's doing with divorced fathers, and that I do also. And then this upcoming Sunday, I have a gentleman named Patrick, who, he's the one I was referencing earlier. In 2016, he was accused of doing some horrific things that occurred in the 90s. It was all completely made up, and it made his life a living hell. So make sure you check out the podcast. And for those of you that want to buy one of these shirts, go to my profile. Go into the link tree, go down 3 or 4 is my merch store, and a portion of the proceeds of my proceeds go towards the domestic violence shelter I mentioned earlier. All right, Linz, I'm going to wrap it up unless you got anything else you want to add.
Nope.
All right, Squirrely girl, thanks for joining me again.
Always.
Good night, Squirrely. You're supposed to say good night, Dan.
Good night, Dan.
All right. Bye, everybody.